Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala rasulillah. Jazakumullahu khairan for your attendance. Inshallah, we get started with the question and answer session. Brothers here have precedence, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, before we take anything from online. Wallahu alam.
Russia, 1861. Is that the answer?
Russia,
European country of practice surfing.
Russia, 1861. There lies no doubt that Russia, according to my limited reading and research, was one of the last countries.
One of the last.
Yes, if not, it's possible. Obviously, history oftentimes is debatable, speculative. The reason why I brought that up is because the people who talk about slavery in Islam, and this is obviously applicable to so many other issues, as we just gave you examples regarding. People throw rocks, they hurl boulders with trebuchets, right? When they live in thin glassed palaces, right? And is serfdom abolished to this day? I mean, to a large extent. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but to a large extent, you're basically a slave of commerce. You're a slave of you're a consumer. You got to get the brand name sneaks. If not, people gonna make fun of you, laugh at you. Your child is gonna be ridiculed endlessly in school if they don't have the expensive stuff. So as if you're what? You're still a slave of certain things. You can't relocate because the cost of living in this city is what? So high. Because of health insurance, because of taxes. You can't travel freely because of the costs. So technically, to a large extent, not 100%, you're a serf. You're a slave. You're connected to this place, to this landlord paying rent, whatever the case may be, to the doctor. You get the point I'm trying to say? There are things you just can't do without. And I'll never forget, I was in Medina once, a good friend of mine, shout out to Sheikh Yusuf in Birmingham. We were walking down the street one night, came back from eating dinner, studying, went back to my house, to the library, drink tea and, study some more. So we were just talking, laughing and joking, talking, start talking about America, UK, modern society, so on and so on and so forth. So he said, joking, he said, I'm grateful for Britain. He said, Britain has good health insurance, free health insurance, blah, 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 da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And I said, well, before this Britain and, da-da-da, did you need that health insurance? Was there cancer? Before the inflow, sugar being taken into the modern world, processed sugar. Did people have diabetes? So oftentimes people, they look at the charity or the goodness of a system, but they forget that the person created the system. Everyone understand this? They created the system. And that takes me to the streets of Philly. Story a brother told me years ago. He was a drug dealer. He was getting money, hustling, and he was scared about, getting locked up. And the cops come in, he was paranoid. And the brother, or the guy who was selling drugs at the time, non-Muslim, he happened to, I believe he was Puerto Rican, right? Either Puerto Rican or Dominican. Not against Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, but just telling the story. So he has some ties with, some cultural practices from back home. Whether you call it this or that, witchcraft, sanctity, or whatever you want to call it, right? So someone advised him, like, old school, you should go to such and such a house, and she can protect you from the police and tell you about the police and, blah, blah, blah. So he went there, and obviously you go there, you got to pay the lady, whatever you call her, a palm reader, whatever it is, you got to pay her. So tell me my destiny, tell me my future. So she told him this, that, they want to come after you here, they want to come after you, blah, 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 blah. Don't go on the block that day. Don't sell, blah, 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 blah. And he kept going, and he kept working. And he began to love the lady, give her a lot of money. Until one day when he was going to her, somehow, some way, he figured it out that she was the one that was calling the cops. She was the one reporting. She was the one telling them when to come and when not to come. So he figured out that she wasn't just, good to him, but she was the one that was creating his problems. So the moral of the story is we provide free health care, but we gave you the meats, the vegetables, the sugar, the processed stuff that caused you to need You understand or not? You get it? We have been charitable to you, but we caused you to be in need of charity. You get the mindset I'm trying to. So never ever forget that, and never forget the power of that tool, right? Of creating a nightmare, and then providing the hero to do away with that nightmare, right? So that's a long discussion in itself. Let alone, tight. Move forward. No further history discussions needed. We can go on and on and on talking about serfdom. Father Hamza.
Barakallahu feek, ya Sheikh. Is it mandatory for you to pray in the masjid if you don't hear the adhan?
Is it mandatory to pray in the masjid if you don't hear the adhan? It's only mandatory to pray in the masjid if you don't hear the adhan if you live within the distance of hearing the adhan. If you live within the locale in which you would normally hear the adhan through the natural means, not a speaker, not an app, then you will be required to go to the masjid, according to that opinion, which inshallah, I believe, is the correct opinion. That jama'ah is wajibah. Obviously, what the scholars say, is it a sunnah or wajibah, fard, is a different discussion. What's important is, sticking with this view, that is fard. You have to pray jama'ah. It's based upon hearing the adhan. And if you don't hear the adhan because of how we live, then the calculated distance of naturally hearing the adhan. And of course, if you go to the masjid, even without hearing the adhan, or living beyond that distance, there's no doubt in the virtue of that, and the excellence of that. But the question is regarding obligatory. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadl.
Barakallahu feek, ya Sheikh. How should you advise someone that, let's say, doesn't like you or thinks that you're ignorant or etc.?
How would you advise them?
Should you advise them? How do you advise
Deen
them?
is nasiha. If advice is needed, you give it, whether it's a person likes you or not. As far as if it isn't obligatory for you to give it, someone else has given advice, or you sincerely fear that they're not going to listen to what you say, stay away from it, because in most cases it's only going to make the person feel even, worse towards you. I don't like you because the way you look. I don't like your ears. I don't like the way you dress. I don't like the way you recite, and you think you're better than me because you gave me advice. That's just adding fuel to the what? To the fire. Wallahu alam. Fadal.
M.A. Hyderabad, India. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahsanallahu alaykum, ya Sheikh. How to reach the stage where I genuinely love for my brother that which I love for myself, and what does this hadith mean? Please answer mercifully. Jazakallah khair.
How to reach the state in which you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And what does that hadith mean? The hadith means that you won't reach the level of perfection that you're supposed to reach, that you have to reach in your faith, unless you become selfless, unless you give precedence to your brothers and you love for your brothers that what you love for yourself, and you don't give inferior things to your brother. So if I give you a ring, I can't give you a ring as a gift that's inferior, a ring that I wouldn't even look towards, let alone wear. It's such a cheap, crappy ring. I wouldn't be caught dead with it on my finger. It's going to turn, my whole hand is going to turn green. But I what? Give it to you. La. I wouldn't love that for myself. It doesn't mean you got to have the ring that I got on. Absolutely. But it has to be something that I would accept myself. All right? And treating your brother in the manner in which you like to be treated. All right? Okay? How to get to that state? By breaking your nuffs. You have to break your nuffs. Right? Something that you love, something that's really nice. Force yourself to give it away. Make for yourself a weekly goal, a monthly goal, a yearly goal. I'm going to give away something that I really like. I'm going to get, and it's going to hurt at first. But eventually what? It will get better. All right? And oftentimes you can't reach a certain level until you're broken. A very interesting story of ancient Japan. If it goes to the long and rich history of teaism in ancient Japan. So there was a tea master. And his tea master was also a Zen master. The Zen master was a tea master. He loved tea. And of course, there's a connection and a correlation between tea and Zen, or Zen Buddhism. So, the tea master, he had a disciple. He had disciples. And he had one disciple that was the top disciple, the most intelligent, most devoted, the most submissive and obedient, the disciple that was always there for him, serving him, doing everything for him. So he always teaches disciples about renunciation, okay, doing away with, divorcing, letting go of this world of wealth, beauty, power, children, women. Let go of these things. Buddhism, right? Being a renunciant, right? Teachings of Buddha, and how having these different possessions are a cause of suffering. They cause you to suffer before, during, and after. And he would always teach his disciples that everything has an end. So one day, he sent his top disciple to bring him his tea. Bring me my tea. It's tea time. And obviously, in ancient Japan, there was a great deal of care that was given to the cups from which they drank the tea. Not like this, whatever you want to call this, or whatever the case may be. No disrespect to it, but real stuff. Craftsmen, right? Real serious cups. So he had one cup that he loved so much that he would always drink his tea out of. So he sent his disciple to bring him the tea. It's time to have tea. The ceremony, blah, 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 blah. So the disciple, he eagerly went out to bring the master his cup. So he walked, with the tea, humbly, da-da-da, and he tripped. And all of a sudden, this prized, cherished, old cup split to 100 pieces. Muslim would say, subhanallah, right? Oh, man, yikes. How am I going to explain this? So he went back to the teacher, the tea master, the Zen master, and he said, teacher, you've always taught me that all things in this world have an end, right? He said, yes, I have taught you that. All things. He said, all things? Yes, all things must go away, must dissolve. This world is transient. Like we believe as Muslims, dunya. Everything will perish, right? Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Hayy, the ever-living, Al-Awwalu, Al-Akhiru, all right? Kullu shayin halikun, right? Allah tells us that everything will go away except for Allah. Allah is the ever-living, subhanahu wa ta'ala. This dunya will go away. Everything will فَإِذَا Allah says, وَسُيِّرَتِ الْجِبَالُ, right? إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُبِّرَتْ, right? Allah talks about the sun, the moon, the mountains, all vanishing. So he asked the Zen master, are you sure? Everything? He said, everything has a time limit, has a shelf life, and everything will expire. He said, well, I'm here to inform you that your priceless, most cherished cup is now in 100 pieces on the ground. So initially, obviously, the Zen master, it hit him a little bit, even with his faith in Buddhism and Zen. It hurt. But instead of getting angry at the disciple or the people or beating him or punishing him, he said, very well, please bring me another cup of tea. So sometimes you can't reach that level of enlightenment. That's the moral of the story. The spiritual, mental enlightenment, except through pain. That's the moral of the story. It hurts, but you know what? Bismillah, tafaddal. Lan tanalu al-birra. Allah says you should not obtain piety until you do what? Spend from that which you love. Not just spend, but spend that which... No, I don't want that one, Mufti. I want this one. The one over there. That one right there. I want the ring that you wear. That's the one I want. Not some other ring you get me from some cheap store. It hurts, but... Bismillah. You get the moral of the story? Wallahu alam.
London, UK. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh. I heard whoever commits a sin and repents, it's like he never sinned. If you commit a certain sin and repent from it, is it still possible Allah Azza wa Jalla holds you accountable and punishes you for it?
One of the most widespread problems that I've experienced among the Muslims today is waswas. Waswas is a cancer. It's a chronic terminal disease and illness. And I know I've dealt with and deal with countless Muslims who are afflicted by it. Allahumma musta'an. It's reality. And there are many different points of attack of waswas. Whether it's a purely spiritual disease, whether it's purely mental disease, or whether it's a mixture between spirit and mind, OCD, etc. Spiritual OCD. Of course, is one's iman, belief in Allah. And the person who suffers from waswas is always going to question himself and doubt himself as being a munafiq, a hidden kafir. I've apostatized, I've left Islam, I've made fun of Islam, I've mocked Islam, I'm no longer a Muslim because someone said this. That's 24/7. And if it's not about that, a person says, I have doubts about Islam, so I'm not a Muslim. In which they don't have doubts. Something that they don't understand, or something which isn't even a doubt. But that's the mindset. And then, of course, after that is purification. Urine, excretion, cleansing oneself, istinja, left hand, right hand, the water dripped, it bounced, it dripped from the toilet. Then I used clean water, but then the clean water dripped again. Then the paper, but the paper isn't mentioned in the hadith. And I read online the shit what they mean, said you can't use a baby wipe, Taking a shower takes hours. Making a ghusl 2-3 hours, no exaggeration, just to make ghusl. To make wudu is an hour long. I have to fight myself to make wudu because maybe I didn't do this, or maybe I passed wind, or maybe I don't have sincere intention, or I might be a kafir. I was making wudu and in the middle of my left arm I became a kafir. So now, literally. And then after wudu is prayer. I can't pray. I have to fight myself to make the takbir. I made the takbir, but in the middle of raising my hands, I doubted Allah and I made fun of Allah, so I became a kafir in the middle of the takbir. I put my hands back down, I made tawbah, I started making takbir again, but I remember I didn't have wudu because I had this little scratch on my finger, and the process keeps going over and over and over and over again. And from that is marriage and divorce. My husband is unlawful for me. My wife is unlawful for me. It's zina. I can't sleep with her. Maybe the witness there was a kafir. Maybe the wali, I know that he sells, haram in his store, so he may be such and such. So I can't, and your marriage is destroyed, right? And of course, from the points of attack of waswas is tawbah. It's one of the biggest points. Is that I made a sin, but maybe my tawbah wasn't valid because my wudu wasn't valid because I had to take 30 minutes. I should have took 29 minutes, and maybe I have to make tawbah again. Maybe Allah will punish me. Maybe I am a munafiq. I made apostasy in the middle of the tawbah, so I had to come back to Islam for a doubt that I have about Islam, but I'm going to make the tawbah again. It goes back and forth. A dog chasing his tail. So my tawbah is invalid. I'm not sincere. I made the sin again, so therefore my previous tawbah that I made last year is invalid. And it keeps going on and on and on and on. So being stuck mentally on, will Allah forgive me? Will Allah punish me? Was my tawbah valid? Maybe this and that. That is a manifestation of what? Of waswas. And the Prophet ﷺ tells us, he who repents, كَمَنْ لَا ذَنْبَ لَهُ, is like he who has no sin. Leave it at that. Allah has promised to forgive his servants. Allah has promised to show mercy to his servants. Allah tells us that he loves those who make repentance. Leave it what? Leave it at that. Wallahu a'lam.
Am Hyderabad, India, is it permissible to move to the US or the West from India, considering that the tax might be used to support
Apartheid.
apartheid?
What's the rule on living in the United States? Paying taxes that are used for dumb bombs. Bombs that blow up indiscriminately. They aren't laser guided. They aren't surgical bombs. Just drop it. Thousands of people live in this neighborhood, in this building at 3 a.m. Huh? Just drop it. The terrorists are in there. Maybe, mumkin, I don't know. They're all terrorists. Man, woman, child. It doesn't matter. Just drop the bomb, okay? What did Mushi Dayan say? One of the predecessors of the early state of Israel. What did he say? He said, our American friends provide us with three things. Our American friends. They provide us with money, weapons, and advice. We take the first two, but we reject the third. It's that simple. They give us three things, two of them we take, the third we never take. So is it lawful to live in America in which you're paying for those dumb bombs that massacre, so on and so forth? There's not much I can say on the situation. The situation is what it is. But do you think that living in India is any better? That regime, that government, the taxes there, are they used to kill Muslims? To build mushrik, filthy, and I quote, physically and metaphysically filthy shirk temples upon the sites of demolished masjids, right? And that money that you pay there, the taxes there, etc., what type of shirk, Hindu shirk does that support? Huh? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And if you move and relocate to another country, you go to this country as well, is going to be what? The central bank It's going to be our friend Visa, MasterCard, right? Swiping and tapping, internationally. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Don't forget that qaida though. They give, what?
Their money.
And weapons. Thank you, friend. No thank you for the advice. Fadl.
IL, London, UK. Can you perform wudu in the shower, like for example at the gym shower?
Can you perform what?
Wudu in the gym shower.
You can perform wudu in the shower, yes. If you're taking a normal shower just for hygiene and cleanliness, or whether you're making a ghusl janaba. And obviously the ghusl janaba is going to include the wudu. And the need of making wudu is included in the ghusl janaba. But if you aren't making that type of ghusl, you just coming from the gym, and you want to clean yourself, wash, scrub, right? Use your loofah or rubber ducky, sing, whatever you got to do, shampoo, bubble bath, touching your body parts, rinse off. When you're ready to make wudu, don't touch your private part again. That's the moral of the story. After your shower ritual, make the wudu, that to be the last thing that you do. And obviously when you dry off or put on lotion or whatever as well, don't touch your private part. Allahu alam.
SM from PNJ. Jazakallah khairan. Ahsanallahu alaykum ya Shaykh. Can you please give some insight to understanding of the hadith? Verily you are in a time when one leaves a tenth of what has been commanded is ruined.
Say it one more time, please.
Jazakallah khairan. Can you please give some insight to understanding of the hadith? Verily you are in a time when one who leaves a tenth of what has been commanded is ruined.
Allahu alam.
MJ Cincinnati, Ohio. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the Muslim stance on pagan supercontinent?
La adri, Allahu alam.
AS London, UK. Assalamu alaikum mufti. Is drop shipping halal? Jazakallah khair.
Wa yakum. Modern trade, oftentimes many things are done electronically and remotely. So make sure that all the clauses are clear in your drop shipping policy. These are the specifications of your product: size, color, shape, dimensions, what's included in the box, blah, 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 blah. This is the shipping. This is when you are to receive it from this date to that date. Once you put in your order, it will be shipped, so on and so on and so forth. If something doesn't come, etc., you are refunded. So from one aspect, drop shipping, do you own the thing? Is it in your possession? Versus you have the access to it and the confidence of you getting it, so on and so forth. So if it's done in that light, then inshallah khair. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
SC Jamaica Queens, can you explain the difference between the seven ahruf and the 10 qira'at?
Can you explain the difference between the 7 ahruf and the 10 qira'at? Not to get too complicated or technical, but the scholars of Islam have a very long discussion on what's meant by sabat ahruf, 7 letters. 7 qira'at, 7 modes and style of language, let alone the qira'at. So some scholars say 7 modes, 7 ahruf. And some say no, that's different. And obviously more than just 7 qira'at, 10 qira'at, 12 qira'at, and the difference between qira'ah mutawatira, sahiha, and qira'ah shadha. Okay, a mode of narration, a mode of recitation, which is mentioned, but it isn't reported through mass tradition, mutawatira. The fine details of this discussion can be found in the discussion of Uloomul Quran, which we have a course on this. And if my memory serves me correctly, it's not the best memory. I believe 1 to 2 classes out of that course are devoted just to this one discussion on what's meant by the 7 letters. 7 modes, 7 dialects of Quraysh, different letters, different ways of pronouncing the same letters, etc. All right, so some say yes, some say no. Are there more than 7? Are there 10? Right? Are there more than 10? And what determines a sound and authentic mode of recitation? What's important is, simple answer, is that for sure there are modes of reciting the Quran al-Kareem. That's a fact. Right? With regards to the nature of certain letters, the points of articulation of certain letters, certain vowels, certain elongations, and different rulings with regards to lam, mim, noon, so on and so forth, as is well known. Wallahu ta'ala alam, and from the wisdoms behind that is ease and the beauty of the different types of diversity. Wallahu alam, faddal.
AE Dallas, Texas, TX. Am I kafir because I haven't been praying before?
Questioner says, am I kafir because I haven't been praying before? If you ask this question, then it proves that you're scared and that you're afraid and that you want to do the right thing. If you have wronged yourself by not praying, make tawbah right now and make the salah right now. That's all you have to do, right? As a man asked, he asked Fudayl ibn Iyad, he asked him, the man, he came to him and he said, I've oppressed myself. I've done a lot of wrong to myself. I've harmed myself for a very long time. I've been a wretch, a sinner, a wicked, evil person for many, many years out of my life. What do I do? And he said to him, أَلَا أُخْبِرُكَ بِالْفَرِيسَةِ الْبَارِدَةِ أَحْسَنْ فِي مَا بَقِي يُغْفَرْ لَكَ مِمَّا مَضَى أو كما قال رحمه الله. He said, do well with that which remains, you'll be forgiven for that which has passed. He says, let me tell you of the easy prey. Al-Faris al-Barida, the sweet prey. The animal is sitting right there. All you got to do is so many, deer, just go into the forest and just shoot, and you'll get one. Right? Do well. In the current and in the future, the past will be done away with. So don't get stuck on that. Just do right. That's all you got to do. Pray now. Make tawbah. Move forward. Do not get stuck in the mental waswas of the past. Wallahu alam.
Katie, Montreal, Canada. I'm using Adobe products. However, I pirated them because I do not have enough money to buy the license. Am I sinful? If yes, then is all the barakah from my craft vanished?
Pirated them, he said?
Nah.
Tahir. Can I use a hacked or, knockoff version, unlocked code? Remember back in the day, jailbreak, all that stuff when the tablets first came out? Right? Can I use that, right? Can I use that version of the Adobe software without paying for the license, blah, blah, blah? Am I sinful? So on and so forth. Right. For argument's sake, if you did steal it, quote unquote, and that's a harsh word, it doesn't mean that everything you do is haram and there's no barakah in your work. Acrobat or Illustrator or whatever software you're using, Photoshop, whatever it is. All right. But just think about the history, and you use the word pirate. Where does the word pirate come from? And the sister or the twin term for pirating or pirates was what? Not buccaneer. There's another word that was used, another term that was used. A profiteer. Profiteering, right? What's the difference between a profiteer and a pirate? Anybody know? They both raided, stole, raped, pillaged, unguard, bored. They both used cannons and swashbuckling, right? Scimitars, right? What was the difference between a pirate and a profiteer? Anybody know? A profiteer was given a license to be a pirate. Okay, Spain, Portugal, England, whatever. You can be a pirate, but under our... you're a licensed thug. You're a licensed, marauder, whatever the case may be. But the pirate is, freelance. And of course, we know that the governments, they would, under the table, hire the pirates. So the moral of the story is, the ruling is what? What's the ruling on stealing from a thief? That's what I'm trying to say. What's the ruling on being a pirate against a profiteering ship? All right? So it's nothing I have against Adobe, hopefully, inshallah, none in my heart. But how much exploitation are these different companies and conglomerates? How much blood sucking other people are they doing, Mahmoud? Where their products come from? Made in the USA? How many little kids lose their fingers in their sweatshops? How many people fall asleep and cut their hands off in the machine because they've been working for so many hours, getting paid pennies? Serfs, you can't leave. You can't quit when you want to. I own you for 10 years. 10 years of your life, 20 years, you pay off your grandfather's debt, then you can leave the workshop. So, I'm not saying you can just go out and steal. I'm not saying be Robin Hood. I'm not saying that, but you get the point I'm trying to make, right? Is it immoral to pirate or profiteer. Get the point I'm trying to make? Wallahu alam.
Divi, Dublin, Ireland. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahsanallah alaykum. Is it true Bukhari intended adab and mufrad to be from the general public and his sahih was for the scholars? Some take this stance to criticize the people of hadith.
Al-Adab al-Mufrad versus Sahih Bukhari. Adab al-Mufrad is for the layman. Sahih Bukhari is for the scholar. The proof is in the pudding, as we say in America. The proof is in the pudding, right? So let's look at Adab al-Mufrad. What's the style of Imam al-Bukhari? Change of narration? Or not? Do all the layman people read change of narration? Can they understand it? So on and so forth. The style is the what? Same style. Al-Adab al-Mufrad is mufrad. The common sense, the word, it's mufrad. It's a single book on adab. And inside Bukhari, there's Kitab al-Adab. And there's Istidhan, seeking permission. There are many other chapters in which he talks about the do's and the don'ts of society. Knocking, don't enter, put your head down, don't peek in someone's house, respecting an elder, giving salams, walking, sitting, lying, so on and so forth. Giving the drink to the right side, so on and so forth. Adab, right? Ethics, whatever you want to call it, right? So, and many hadiths in Adab al-Mufrad are also found in the Sahih. So I don't think that that's an accurate statement. Now, the summarized version of Adab al-Mufrad, condensed, that may be for the layman or the beginning student of knowledge, but the actual book, without a question, is a book of knowledge. It's a scholastic work. And the style of Bukhari is, if not hand by hand, very similar, if almost exact, same author. And I've warned from this mistake many years ago. Many people, it's a good thing and a bad thing. They talk about Adab al-Mufrad, teach Adab al-Mufrad, we need to do, but why not do Kitab al-Adab from the Sahih? If you got access to gold, if Muslim men can wear gold, why would I want to wear silver? If you got access, the gold is right there, the solid gold. You get the point? Wallahu ta'ala adam.
SC, Jamaica, Queens. If I join Salah late and it's the Imam's second rak'ah, it's the Imam's second and my first rak'ah. When he's in his tashahhud and I'm also sitting, what should I recite? Should I also say the tahiyyat? Although
don't make the tahiyyat if it isn't your tashahhud. You sit with the Imam, you wait with the Imam, say subhanallah, make tasbih. Don't sit silently, nor make the tashahhud which isn't your tashahhud. You are following the Imam outwardly. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
MS Gatineau, Canada. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ya Shaykh. How to benefit from the nature of the outdoors as a Muslim?
This will be our last question tonight. How to benefit from nature and outdoors as a Muslim. Obviously, the word nature is problematic extremely. It has shirk and kufr origins to it. For sure. Nature, Darwinism, natural selection. Yeah, it just popped up, poof, the forests, the pine trees, everything, the bear, just, right? That's a problem. But obviously we know that's not what they mean. And people use the word nature now to just mean that which isn't man-made. It's not concrete and still, and the trees, the dirt, so on and so forth. So how do you benefit from a Muslim? Well, first and foremost, a wise man once said, although there's no Wi-Fi in the forest, you'll always find a better connection. Or no, there's no Wi-Fi in the forest, you will find a what? A better connection, meaning the fresh air versus the pollution of the city. Trains, planes, all right? People smoking weed, right? Walking down the street, vaping every 5 seconds. Everybody vapes. Wherever you go, vaping, cigarettes, stinks, skunks, all types, huh? You get the point I'm trying to make. I ain't talking about the skunks in the forest, bro, right? We talking about the other. You get the point I'm trying to make. It stinks. So you smell these different bad smells in the forest or whatever type of nature, the sea, the bank, the shore, fresh air. And subhanAllah, if you just look at things that stink in nature, quote unquote, they don't stink the way other things stink. Even if it stinks a little bit, it's still a different type of stink. Is this not the case? Something synthetic burns. It chokes you. At the end of the day, fresh air is better for your lungs, for your body. Green, And of course, all nature scenes aren't green. Of course, there's the winter, there's the tundra, there's the desert. But we're talking about the forest right now. Why is green? What is the best color in Islam? What is the most pleasing color? Some scholars say that it is green. And one of the reasons why it's green is because green is associated with your ancestor and with your origin, and that's Jannah. And one of the reasons why Jannah is called Jannah, Jeen, Jim, Nun. All right, Jannah is something which covers. So many trees, so many leaves, so many branches, is that it shades and hides and covers. Like the jinn, you can't see them. Or heart, Jinan, or all right, a fetus. The list goes on. The moral of the story is that they say the color, green itself, it helps you. It's good for your eyes. Right? Calm, soothing. The water, the dirt, not walking on concrete, walking barefoot. There are many different benefits for your health, mental health, physical health. It's natural. Stop drinking that water. That water is full of rubbish. You need to drink the water right from there. This is 10 times better than any spring water from this babbling brook, this ice water, whatever the case may be, right? The food that you do eat out there, you fish, field and stream, right? You hunt, clean, so on and so forth. So it's good for your physical health, your mental health, you're stressed and depressed. Everything in the city is a rush. People are rude. People are ignorant. People are cutting you off. I'm late for work again. I'm late to get home to my kids. I'm late. That stress, it kills your mind, right? And of course, the spirit, when you reflect on the beauty of Allah's creation and how everything that this filthy piece of shame today, the kafir, has of technology and power and this and that comes from what Allah made. These different militaries that consider themselves to be invincible and unstoppable and have so much pride, everything in the military is based off of things that Allah created. Air Force, tanks, Navy, submarine, projectile, all of that stuff comes from what? Camouflage comes from what? Comes from nature. The birds that can swoop, drop, soar, right? Different animals that hover, hummingbird, mosquito is sit still, right? Think of animals that have armor, animals that are camouflaged, animals that swim, come out the water, attack their prey, right? What does the submarine do? Attacks from below, diving, submersed, right? Different, all of that stuff they stole from what? Allah Azza wa Jall's creation. Stealth. They stole that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, right? The owl, right? Field rats. You know, the sense of hearing that mice and rats have is uncanny. They hear so many different things in the forest at night. If you ever study the makeup of owls in general, let alone the great horned owl, you'll read about certain feathers that it has on its wings. Certain feathers, not all of them. When they're moved in a certain position, it manipulates the wind and the sound and the speed and how the sound travels to basically make the rat deaf for a few seconds. It can't hear it, and it swoops down. So radar, sonar, this and that, stealth bombing, all of that came from what? Came from all of those animals and all of those insects, blending in with your environment, so on and so forth. So man, the kafir, not the mu'min, is a thief. And that's why we call him a piece of shame. He considers himself to be top, to be the best, and all he did was steal from Allah without thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Without giving Allah the gratitude that's necessary, right? So I think that being in nature, whether it's the sand, the snow, the forest, the water, wherever you are, that's natural, quote unquote, will be good for mind, body, and soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. And of course, you want to connect and tie together those ayats, those ahadith. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Allah clearly says, do not look at the camel and how the camel is created. Do not look at the sky. Does man not look at himself? Does man, وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَ, he forgot how he was made. So many different parallels that you'll find from Quran and Sunnah and nature. And this is one of the reasons why, alhamdulillah, HadithDisciple over the years, if you notice, 5 minutes of faida, HD geographic, we always take the camera out to what? To nature. And alhamdulillah, without bragging, you can find 5 minutes of faida for every single season and every single environment. 5 minutes of faida, we in the hood, in front of graffiti, brick walls, gritty, grimy, a 5 minutes of fajda in a snow blizzard, 5 minutes of fajda in the middle of the desert, 5 minutes of fajda in water, jet ski, whatever the case may be, 5 minutes of fajda on top of a mountain, 5 minutes of fajda in the rain, and the list goes on to show you how it all connects, right? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.